Welcome to IELTS Self-Peep MasterPrep, your trusted source for real exam-based practice tests. Every test you see here is inspired by current exam trends, and each one comes with full model solutions to help you master every section. Here's our daily schedule. IELTS tests drop every morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and CLP tests every evening at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. No matter which exam you're preparing for, we've got you covered every single day. Are you ready for today's test? Give it your best shot and comment your score. The top 5 scorers will be featured in our monthly Achievers newsletter and awards. Want your name included? Let's begin.
Do you have any pets at home?
Yes, I have a cat at home. I got her about 2 years ago from a friend. She is very cute and friendly. I enjoy playing with her after work because it helps me feel relaxed. She likes sleeping on my bed, which is sometimes annoying, but mostly I don't mind.
Yes, I do. I've had a ginger tabby cat called Marmalade for roughly 3 years now. She's incredibly affectionate and has become a real companion, especially when I come home after a long day. I find that caring for her has actually taught me a lot about responsibility and routine, which I didn't really expect when I first adopted her from a local shelter.
Absolutely, yes. I'm the proud owner of a rather mischievous border collie named Baxter, whom I've had since he was a puppy about 4 years ago. He's brimming with energy and keeps me on my toes constantly, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Honestly, having him around has enriched my daily life enormously. He motivates me to get outdoors, and there's something deeply comforting about the unconditional companionship a pet provides.
Why do you think some people prefer keeping pets rather than other hobbies?
I think people like keeping pets because animals can make them happy. When you have a pet, you always have company at home. Also, pets like dogs can help people exercise more because they need to go for walks. It's a good way to reduce stress after a busy day.
Well, I suppose the main reason is the emotional bond people develop with their animals. Unlike most hobbies, having a pet offers constant companionship and a sense of being needed. On top of that, studies have shown that interacting with animals can lower blood pressure and reduce anxiety, so there's a genuine health benefit that other pastimes might not provide as readily.
That's an interesting question. I'd say a key factor is that pets fulfill a fundamental human need for emotional connection in a way that few hobbies can replicate. The relationship is reciprocal, you invest time and care, and in return you receive unwavering loyalty and affection. Beyond that, pet ownership often fosters a structured routine and encourages physical activity, particularly with dogs. It's a uniquely holistic pursuit that simultaneously benefits one's mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Are there any animals you are afraid of?
Yes, I'm quite afraid of snakes. I think they look scary and I don't like how they move. When I was young, I saw a snake near my house and I was very frightened. Since then, I have always tried to stay away from them. Even pictures of snakes make me uncomfortable.
I'd have to say spiders, actually. I know it's a fairly common phobia, but I genuinely can't help feeling uneasy whenever I spot one. I think the fear partly stems from a childhood experience when a rather large spider dropped onto my pillow while I was reading. It's completely irrational, of course, since most spiders in my country are entirely harmless, yet the reaction is almost instinctive.
Interestingly enough, I've always had an irrational aversion to jellyfish. It dates back to a family holiday by the coast when I was about 8. I accidentally brushed against one while swimming and the sting was absolutely excruciating. Ever since that incident, I've been remarkably wary of them, even though I'm fully aware that the vast majority of species pose no real threat. It's fascinating how a single childhood encounter can leave such a lasting psychological imprint, isn't it?
What do you do in your daily life to help protect the environment?
I try to do small things every day. For example, I always carry a reusable bag when I go shopping and I try not to waste water at home. Also, I separate my rubbish for recycling. These are simple actions, but I believe if everyone does them, it can make a difference.
I make a conscious effort in several ways, actually. I've significantly cut down on single-use plastics by carrying my own water bottle and shopping bags, and I cycle to work rather than driving whenever the weather permits. I've also started buying seasonal produce from local markets, which reduces the carbon footprint associated with transporting food over long distances.
I'd like to think I'm fairly environmentally conscious in my day-to-day habits. I've been committed to a largely plant-based diet for the past couple of years, primarily because livestock farming is one of the leading contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Beyond dietary choices, I prioritize public transport, compost household waste and actively avoid fast fashion. I'm under no illusion that individual actions alone will solve the crisis, but I do believe they cultivate a mindset that ultimately drives broader systemic change.
Do you think environmental problems are worse now than in the past?
Yes, I think environmental problems are much worse now. There is more pollution from factories and cars, and many forests have been cut down. Also, climate change is causing serious problems like floods and droughts. In the past, people didn't have so many machines, so the environment was probably cleaner and healthier.
Without a doubt, I'd say the situation has deteriorated considerably. Issues like air pollution, deforestation, and ocean contamination have accelerated dramatically over the last few decades due to rapid industrialization and population growth. What concerns me most is that many of these problems are interconnected. For instance, deforestation contributes to climate change, which in turn leads to more extreme weather events. It's become a vicious cycle.
Undeniably so, and I think what distinguishes the current era is the sheer scale and interconnectedness of the challenges we face. Historically, environmental degradation tended to be localized, a polluted river here, deforestation there, but today we're grappling with genuinely global phenomena such as climate change, biodiversity loss and oceanic acidification. The pace of deterioration has been staggering, largely driven by unchecked industrial expansion and consumerism. Perhaps the silver lining is that public awareness has never been greater, yet translating that awareness into meaningful policy remains an enormous hurdle.
Is environmental education important for children? Why or why not?
Yes, I think it's very important. Children should learn about the environment from a young age so they can develop good habits. For example, if they learn about recycling at school, they will do it at home too. Also, children are the future, so they need to understand how to take care of the planet for the next generation.
Absolutely, I think it's essential. Children are naturally curious about the world around them, so introducing environmental topics early on can foster a genuine sense of responsibility towards nature. Schools could incorporate hands-on activities like gardening projects or wildlife surveys, which would make the learning far more engaging. Ultimately, if we equip young people with the right knowledge and values, they're far more likely to become environmentally responsible adults.
I'd argue it's absolutely paramount, and arguably one of the most impactful long-term investments a society can make. When children are exposed to environmental concepts at a formative age, they internalize sustainable values that shape their behavior throughout adulthood. Moreover, environmentally literate young people are better positioned to challenge unsustainable practices and advocate for policy reform as they mature. The key, however, lies in making the curriculum experimental rather than purely theoretical. Field trips, conservation projects, and community cleanups resonate far more deeply than textbook lessons ever could.
Please begin speaking now.
I want to talk about a time last year when I was really busy. It was around December because I had my university exams and also I was working part-time in a restaurant. I had to study for 3 exams and they were all in the same week, which was very stressful. I also had to work evening shifts because my manager said I couldn't take time off. To manage my time, I made a simple plan. I studied in the morning and afternoon, then went to work in the evening. Sometimes I also studied late at night after work. I felt very tired and stressed during that time. I didn't have time to meet my friends or do anything fun. But after the exams finished, I felt very happy and relieved. I think it taught me that I need to plan better and maybe not take on too many things at the same time. Overall, it was a difficult period, but I got through it.
I'd like to describe a particularly hectic period I experienced about 6 months ago when I was juggling my final year dissertation alongside organizing a charity fundraiser at my university. The dissertation deadline was looming, and I still had several chapters to complete, including the data analysis section, which required a great deal of concentration. Simultaneously, I had committed to coordinating a week-long fundraising event, which involved liaising with local businesses for sponsorship, managing a team of volunteers, and handling all the publicity. In terms of time management, I created a detailed schedule, allocating specific blocks of time to each task. I prioritized the dissertation during the mornings when my mind was freshest and dedicated the afternoons and evenings to the fundraiser logistics. I also learned to delegate certain responsibilities to trusted team members, which was something I hadn't really done before. Emotionally, it was quite draining, and there were moments when I felt overwhelmed. However, there was also a sense of accomplishment once everything came together. The fundraiser was a success, and I submitted my dissertation on time, so ultimately it was a very rewarding experience.
I'd like to recount an extraordinarily demanding period I went through roughly 8 months ago, when I found myself simultaneously preparing for my postgraduate entrance examinations, completing an internship at an architectural firm, and coordinating the relocation of my family to a new city. The entrance exams required intensive preparation across multiple subjects, including advanced mathematics and design theory, so I was devoting every spare moment to revision. Meanwhile, my internship responsibilities had escalated because 2 colleagues had resigned unexpectedly, leaving me to shoulder a significantly heavier workload, which included drafting proposals for a high-profile commercial project. On top of all that, I had taken it upon myself to handle the logistics of my family's move, from liaising with estate agents to overseeing the packing and transportation of our belongings. To keep everything from falling apart, I adopted a meticulous approach to time management, breaking each day into carefully structured segments and utilizing productivity techniques such as the Pomodoro method to maintain focus. I also made a conscious effort to safeguard my well-being by ensuring I still got adequate sleep and brief periods of exercise. Emotionally, it was a real rollercoaster. There were moments of sheer exhaustion and self-doubt, yet paradoxically, the intensity of the experience gave me a tremendous sense of purpose. Looking back, I believe that period was genuinely transformative, as it taught me the value of resilience and strategic prioritization under pressure.
Why do you think many people today feel busier than previous generations?
I think people feel busier now because of technology. We have smartphones and email, so our boss can contact us anytime, even at home. Also, the cost of living is higher now, so many people need to work longer hours or have 2 jobs. In the past, life was simpler because there weren't so many things to do. People just worked and came home. But now we have many responsibilities and it's hard to find free time.
I believe there are several contributing factors. Firstly, the digital revolution has blurred the boundaries between work and personal life, meaning that people are essentially contactable around the clock and find it difficult to switch off. Secondly, modern consumer culture places enormous pressure on individuals to earn more and acquire more, which inevitably leads to longer working hours. Additionally, There seems to be a societal expectation, particularly on social media, to lead a full and exciting life, which compels people to pack their schedules with activities. So I think it's a combination of technological, economic, and cultural pressures.
I think this is a multifaceted issue. On one level, technological advancements, whilst ostensibly designed to save time, have paradoxically created an always-on culture in which the demarcation between professional and personal life has become increasingly porous. People are expected to respond to emails and messages instantaneously, which generates a perpetual sense of urgency. On another level, the modern economy is characterized by heightened competition and job insecurity, compelling individuals to work longer and harder simply to maintain their standard of living. Furthermore, I'd argue that there's a psychological dimension. Social media fosters a culture of comparison, where people feel inadequate unless they are constantly productive or engaged in something noteworthy. Taken together, these factors create an environment in which busyness has almost become a status symbol.
Do you think being busy is always a negative thing, or can it have benefits?
I think being busy can be good sometimes. For example, when you are busy, you don't waste time and you can achieve more things. Some people feel bored if they have nothing to do, so being busy helps them feel useful. But if you are too busy, it can be bad for your health because you don't have time to rest. So I think it depends on how busy you are. A little busy is okay, but too much is not good.
That's an interesting question, and I think the answer largely depends on the nature and degree of busyness. On the one hand, having a full schedule can be incredibly motivating. It gives people a sense of purpose and can boost productivity, as deadlines and commitments often push us to perform at our best. There's also evidence to suggest that people who stay mentally and physically active tend to enjoy better overall well-being. On the other hand, chronic busyness without adequate rest can lead to burnout, anxiety, and deteriorating relationships. So ultimately, I think the key lies in striking a healthy balance between being productively engaged and allowing oneself time to recharge.
I'd contend that busyness is something of a double-edged sword. When it stems from meaningful engagement, pursuing goals one is passionate about, building a career, or contributing to one's community, it can be profoundly fulfilling and is often associated with a strong sense of self-worth and accomplishment. Research in positive psychology actually suggests that people who maintain a moderate level of purposeful activity report higher levels of life satisfaction than those who are largely idle. However, when busyness becomes relentless and indiscriminate, it can exact a severe toll on both mental and physical health. Chronic overwork has been linked to conditions ranging from cardiovascular disease to clinical depression, and it frequently erodes the quality of personal relationships. There's also the danger of confusing busyness with genuine productivity. One can be perpetually occupied yet accomplish remarkably little of substance. So I think the critical distinction lies not in the volume of activity but in its quality and sustainability.
What changes could governments or employers introduce to help people achieve a better work-life balance?
I think governments could make laws about working hours. For example, they could say that people shouldn't work more than 8 hours a day. Also, employers could let people work from home sometimes, because this saves time traveling. Another idea is to give workers more holiday days so they can spend time with their family. I think these changes would help people feel less stressed and have a better balance between work and their personal life.
There are several measures that could make a real difference. From a governmental perspective, introducing or enforcing stricter regulations on maximum working hours would be a good starting point, as some countries have already done successfully. France's 35-hour working week is a notable example. Legislation guaranteeing a right to disconnect from work communications outside office hours would also help enormously. As for employers, offering genuinely flexible working arrangements, such as remote work options and compressed working weeks, would allow employees greater autonomy over their schedules. Investing in employee well-being programs, including mental health support, could also go a long way towards reducing stress and preventing burnout. I think it requires a collaborative effort from both sides.
This is a pressing issue that demands a multifaceted approach. At the policy level, governments could legislate more robustly around working time directives, drawing inspiration from progressive models such as those in Scandinavia, where shorter working weeks have been trialed with remarkably positive outcomes in terms of both productivity and employee satisfaction. Equally important would be the introduction of enforceable right to disconnect legislation, which would legally protect employees from the expectation of responding to work-related communications during their personal time. On the corporate side, employers could fundamentally rethink their organizational cultures by shifting the focus from hours logged to outcomes achieved, thereby dismantling the pervasive notion that presenteeism equates to productivity. Implementing comprehensive flexible working policies, subsidizing childcare, and providing access to mental health resources would also be transformative. Perhaps most critically, there needs to be a broader cultural shift away from glorifying overwork, and that requires leadership from the top, with senior figures modeling healthy working practices rather than merely paying lip service to the concept of work-life balance.
Before you go, don't forget to like this video, share it with other test takers, and subscribe so you never miss your daily IELTS and CELPEP tests. Drop your score in the comments. Your name could be featured in our monthly Achievers newsletter. Stay consistent, stay focused, and keep leveling up with MasterPrep.